Scientists are supposed to make sense of the world. That's their job. They tackle the mysteries that leave the rest of us scratching our heads. But sometimes even they are left baffled. Here are some of the most incredible discoveries that science still can't explain. Number 20. Namibian fairy circles. For decades, large barren circles of dirt surrounded by vegetation in the desert of southern Africa have confused the absolute heck out of scientists. The rings range in size from 10 feet to 65 feet in diameter and cover an area of hundreds of miles. These circles have been given the name fairy circles, but scientists don't think there's anything mythological about them. They just can't provide an exact theory with complete certainty yet. Due to the size of the area they're in, it's too difficult to conduct experiments over the whole area or to analyze it as a whole, so scientists can only really come up with sound theories. One of the theories is that because the Namib Desert is dry, water is limited, and plants compete for resources. As vegetation expands and thrives in a patch, smaller plants in the vicinity can't access water and die, leaving the barren patch in the middle. But once you start exploring these circles, you'll notice there are termite colonies under each one. They burrow underground, forage for food, and destroy the vegetation above them. As termites fight over territory, they can end up with several colonies and a no-man's land in between them, such as what you see in those circles. Number 19. The Voynich manuscript. It's not very often you come across a book that stumps everyone. Usually, even if you don't understand the context of the book, you can at least understand the language it's written in. But that is not the case for the Voynich manuscript. This early 15th century document is stored at Yale University and is considered the most mysterious book in the world. Countless people have tried to decipher it but haven't been able to, and I don't blame them. It consists of a mixture of Arabic numbers, handwritten Latin letters, and unknown characters. It's so mysterious and so confusing that it's appeared on many TV shows and featured in books, video games, and music. After 3 years of analyzing it, one man thinks he has an idea of how to translate the work. German Egyptologist Rainer Hannig from the Romer and Pelagius Museum in Hildesheim said he believes the manuscript's language is based on Hebrew. He said countless decipherment attempts were made and that many languages were proposed, like Czech, Latin, and one spoken by the Aztecs called Nahuatl. But the word structure leaves another possible explanation, that it was not composed in any Indo-European language at all. Rainer thinks it might be a Semitic language and might take a couple more years to crack. Number 18. The Lost City of Atlantis. Ancient Greek philosopher Plato was the first person to mention the lost city of Atlantis about 2,300 years ago, and even today, it's still one of the world's greatest mysteries. Apparently, the lost city of Atlantis existed about 9,000 years before Plato's time, and then one day, it disappeared. The biggest question scientists now have is, where is it? Many studies suggest it may have sunk into the sea after a tsunami or earthquake. If it was truly located near the Rock of Gibraltar, as people think, it should be somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. Some people believe it might be in the Mediterranean off the coast of Spain, while others go so far as to say it could be underneath Antarctica. But now, scientists are sure it's somewhere between the waters of Spain and Morocco. Why are people even interested in finding this city? Well, wouldn't you want to find an ancient hidden city? It was supposedly a self-sufficient and prosperous city where people would grow food, rear crops, build incredible buildings and architecture, and use rare metals and alloys like brass. We really want to know more, so hopefully one day the big mystery can be solved. Number 17. The Ulfbert swords. It takes a lot to stump archaeologists, but Ulfbert swords have done just that. We all know that the Vikings were fierce warriors, but what we find strange is that they were carrying swords that, according to the technology of the time, were 1,000 years too early. Archaeologists have found 170 swords to date that have been forged with technologies that didn't appear to have existed until 800 years after their era. The swords date from between 800 AD to 1000 AD, but the technology used to craft them was from the Industrial Revolution of the 1800s and 1900s. All the swords also had Ulfbert engraved on them, adding to the mystery. The swords were displayed on a TV show called Secrets of the Viking Sword, and the process for forging the iron for the swords was described as involving heating it up to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, the ore would be liquefied and the impurities removed. The iron would then be strengthened when mixed with carbon. But the technology of the time meant that they wouldn't have been able to produce that much heat, and impurities back then were removed by hammering them out. These swords found had nearly no impurities and 3 times as much carbon as any other metals that existed at the time. Strange. Number 16. The Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin, which some people refer to as the Holy Shroud, is a linen cloth with the negative image of a man. Everyone has different theories about the fabric, but one of the most famous theories out there is that it's Jesus of Nazareth and that the length of linen cloth is the burial shroud he was wrapped in after crucifixion. The cloth was first written of in literature in around 1354, but the local bishop of Troyes called it a fake in 1389. It has been kept in the Cathedral of Turin's Royal Chapel in northern Italy since 1578, but the Catholic Church doesn't actually endorse or reject it, although Pope Francis referred to the cloth as an icon of a man scourged and crucified. Because we have the technology to get to the bottom of many things, there's a chance we've actually gone to the bottom of the Shroud of Turin as well. Radiocarbon dating performed in 1988 showed that the shroud dated back to between 1260 and 1390 during the Middle Ages. Holding on to hope that the dating is wrong, some people say that it might have been repaired during the medieval ages or was contaminated in some way. To this day, a single piece of cloth is a massive controversy between biblical scholars and scientists. Now it's time for today's topic. Following Egypt's recent terrifying discoveries beneath the pyramids, another baffling find has surfaced, this time in Nazca, Peru. Locals near the famous Nazca Lines have reported a massive, human-like footprint that mysteriously appeared overnight in the desert. The footprint, measuring over 30 feet in length, has left archaeologists and locals alike stunned. The discovery was first reported by farmers who noticed the strange imprint while tending to their fields. Its proximity to the ancient Nazca Lines has sparked intense speculation. Some believe it could be an elaborate hoax or a modern-day artwork created to mimic the mysterious lines. However, others argue that the footprint's size and depth suggest something far more extraordinary. Archaeologists are now studying the site, but so far, no tools or evidence of human activity have been found nearby. Could this be a natural phenomenon, or is it evidence of something beyond our understanding? Some locals have even linked the footprint to ancient legends of giants who once roamed the earth. For now, the origins of the footprint remain a mystery, leaving the world to wonder. Is this just another unexplained desert anomaly? Or could it be a clue to something far greater? What do you think? Number 15. Three Whale Rock. In San Juan, also known as Three Whale Rock, looks like the name suggests, three whales made of rock. It is a 75-million-year-old rock at the top of mountains in Thailand and got its name because it looks like three whales from above, a mom, dad, and baby. When you get to see the rock from above, you can see for miles around it, including across the Mekong River to Laos. Anyone can go visit the whale family, and it's a recommended activity on any Thailand adventure. Even though there are photos all over the internet of these three rocks showing their similarities to whales, there actually isn't a lot of information about them. We know they're millions of years old, but we haven't been able to find out any information on how they were formed or even what kind of rock they feature. If you know any of this information, we'd love a history lesson in the comments, or, even better, if you've been there, share your experience with us. Number 14. The Marfa Lights. Whenever mysterious lights form in the sky, people are quick to offer up their theories. 9 times out of 10, UFO is the most common answer. But there's something genuinely absurd about the Marfa Lights of West Texas, and no matter how many theories are thrown out there, none of them have stuck. The Marfa Lights are glowing orbs that appear outside the West Texas town of Marfa in the desert. Witnesses often describe them as white, red, yellow, blue, and other colors and around the same size as basketballs. Often, they flicker, float, dart across the sky, twinkle, and even split into two orbs. They appear in any weather conditions and at any time of the year, but usually only on around a dozen nights annually. What is it so interesting? The first mention of them was back in 1883, and we've been trying to figure out what they are ever since. Area settlers thought they were signs of campfires, and pilots during World War II even tried to find the source of them but came up empty-handed. Scientists only have theories, too. Some believe they're caused by light refraction at different temperatures, while others wonder if they're caused by phosphine and methane gases, the same gas associated with glowing lights from swamps. A retired aerospace engineer jumped in with his theory to say he believed they resulted from igneous rock creating a piezoelectric charge. Number 13. The Hobbits of Flores. In 2003, a type of pygmy human species called Homo floresiensis, also known as the Hobbit, was found on the island of Flores in a cave. Ever since it was discovered, the bones have left scientists scratching their heads. They aren't sure whether the unusual bones were a new type of human species or simply a diseased one. No one's quite sure how they got to the island in the first place. Scientists also haven't found an awful lot of bones to help them reach a conclusion, despite bringing in American, Indonesian, and Australian archaeologists to look for them. The most complete individual of Homo floresiensis found had a skull, one shoulder, arm and forearm bones, wrist bones, nearly half a pelvis, a thigh, leg bones, and foot bones. The following year, even more bones from a different individual were found, which included part of a jaw, limb bones, and the limb bones of a child. These all paint a picture of a creature with a small brain, massive teeth, 2 feet short legs, and long arms like a chimpanzee that lived between 100,000 and 60,000 years ago. And that's pretty much as far as we've gotten. Is it a Homo habilis? We just don't know yet. Number 12. A giant finger. When we were children, we probably read stories and watched movies about giants, but we know now that they were just that, stories. But are they? Could giants really be real? If this massive 15-inch finger is anything to go by, they just might be. Pictures of the finger were taken by researcher Gregor Spory in Egypt in 1988. He had apparently paid an old man from a grave robber dynasty to see the finger and take the picture, so there's really no way to verify that the finger is legitimate. However, if it is, and it sure looks real, then that would mean the person who used to have it attached to their hand was probably over 16 feet tall. That would make him a giant. Gregor showed the picture to different experts at museums, but they all fobbed him off. He said they all said the finger didn't fit into the modern theories they already have. But there are a few theories to suggest that giants may have lived in Egypt. Roman historian Josephus Flavius wrote in 79 AD that the last race of giants lived during the reign of King Joshua in the 12th century BC. He noted that they had massive bodies, booming voices like a lion's roar, and faces unlike ordinary humans. However, scientists have always said that human-like beings over 20 feet tall are the stuff of fiction. So who knows? Number 11. The Salzburg Cube. The Wolf's Egg iron, also called the Salzburg Cube, is an ancient artifact that has one big question mark over it. What is it? Even today, we don't know. The strange artifact was found inside lignite mined in Wolf's Egg House Rock in Austria in 1885. A workman at the Skondorf, Austria Braun iron factory was breaking up a block of 20-million-year-old lignite when he found the strange object. It wasn't until 1886 that mining engineer Adolf Gerlt reported the unique object to the Natural History Society of Bonn. He described it as being covered with a thin layer of rust, made of iron, and with a gravity of 7.75. It was also said to weigh 785 grams, nearly 28 ounces, and measured 67 by 67 by 47 millimeters, 2.6 by 2.6 by 1.85 inches. It had 4 roughly flat sides and 2 perfectly convex sides opposite each other. The entire way around the object are deep grooves, and these are present around halfway up on each side. Strangely, the cube looks machine-made, and no one actually knows what it is, what it does, or where it came from. It's currently held in the Heimathaus Museum of Wacklebruck in Austria. Number 10. The Martian meteorite. To most people, rocks are pretty boring, but even if you're not a rock fan, you can't help but be impressed by the one that fell from Mars and might prove that life existed there millions of years ago. It fell to Earth during the Stone Age and contained carbon-rich tunnels and spheres that hint at the presence of microorganisms. Scientists believe this is due to the marks that microorganisms generally leave when they eat through rocks here on Earth. The meteorite, known as ALH 84001, was discovered in Antarctica in 1984 and has been the subject of intense study ever since. Its unique chemical composition, including traces of magnetite crystals, has led some researchers to suggest that it could only have been formed in the presence of biological activity. Additionally, the rock contains tiny carbonate globules that resemble structures created by bacteria on Earth. These features have sparked debates within the scientific community, with some arguing that they are definitive signs of ancient Martian life, while others believe they could have been formed through non-biological processes. The meteorite's journey to Earth is also fascinating, as it was ejected from Mars by a massive impact event millions of years ago and traveled through space before landing on our planet. Authors of the study involving the rock don't go so far as to say that they found evidence of ancient life on Mars, but it definitely strengthens the idea that that may have been the case. Aside from that rock, though, scientists haven't actually found any solid proof that life existed on ancient Mars, but they have found evidence to suggest it might have been habitable, even if it's barren now. They believe water covered its surface in streams, rivers, and oceans, and the Mars rover named Curiosity discovered evidence that it may have supported living microbes billions of years ago. Number 9. Naga fireballs. If you're ever exploring Thailand in a post-COVID world, it might be worth timing your trip with the Naga Fireball Festival. It is easily one of the most fascinating and mysterious festivals held in Nong Khai and Phon Phi Sai along the Mekong River in northern Thailand. Massive groups of people gather along the Mekong River to watch hundreds of thousands of glowing red fireballs shoot up out of the water into the sky. But these aren't well-timed, waterproof fireworks. We don't actually know what they are, except that the fireballs rise up from the water in mid to late October and in early November each year, hang around for a few seconds, then disappear. Locals believe the fireballs are caused by the mythical giant serpent in the river known as Phaya Naga, but scientists aren't so sure. They have a few theories of their own, but none can actually be verified yet. Some scientists believe the fireballs are swamp gas, which is created when pockets of methane are produced from organic materials decomposing underground. When they reach the surface into oxygen-rich air, they ignite. Another scientist believes a specific alignment of the moon, sun, and Earth has to happen for the fireballs to be created, and that the Mekong River may provide that alignment. Many also believe that the marshy environment of the river results in phosphine gas, which strengthens that swamp gas theory. We may never actually know for sure. Number 8. The Antikythera mechanism. Have you ever stopped to think about whether what we know about ancient times might not be accurate? For example, we might think a certain type of technology existed X number of years ago, but in fact it was much earlier or much later. That's what I'm pondering when I read about the Antikythera mechanism, a 2,000-year-old device described as the world's oldest computer. Found on a Roman-era shipwreck dating back to 1901 in Greece, the mechanism has baffled scientists ever since it was found, especially as the hand-powered device from ancient Greece appeared far more complex than they thought was possible for the time. The intricate design of its gears, with over 30 interlocking bronze cogs, suggests a deep understanding of mathematics and engineering. Some inscriptions on the mechanism have been partially deciphered, revealing references to the zodiac and specific calendar dates. This has led experts to believe it was not only a tool for astronomy but also a sophisticated calendar system. The craftsmanship of the device is so advanced that it has been compared to 18th-century clockmaking, raising questions about what other technologies the ancient Greeks might have developed. Its discovery has also sparked debates about whether similar devices existed, but were lost to history due to the perishable nature of their materials. They believe it would have been used to predict astronomical events like eclipses. It has complex gearing systems, but it wasn't complete, so scientists had to try to recreate it using 3D computer modeling. They managed to create the entire front panel and hoped to build a complete replica of it with modern materials to see how it worked and what it looked like. Some research on the Antikythera mechanism states that there are a lot of fine details and complex parts to display the sun, moon, and planets. Number 7. The Longyu Caves. The Longyu Caves are located in the village of Shiyan Beitsuan, which is in China's Zhejiang province. They were the source of legends and rumors, but no one had actually attempted to explore what were described as bottomless ponds filled with water. One man was so curious about the caves that he rallied the community to purchase a hydraulic pump and empty the so-called bottomless ponds of all their water. It took 17 days, but eventually, they were empty, and something incredible was revealed. The discovery of the caves was made in 1992, and since then, around 36 grottos have been discovered, consisting of 30,000 square meters of caverns dug by hand. They are easily one of the largest known ancient excavation projects, and no documentation exists to learn more about them. All of the caverns were carved into siltstone and had separate rooms, carvings on the walls, bridges, gutters, and pools. After some investigations, it looked like they were hand-carved by an unknown civilization. But what scientists are still curious about is how they were made. The sheer volume of rock needed to be removed from them amounted to about 1 million cubic meters. That would take 1,000 people working for 6 years straight, 24 hours a day. Number 6. Göbekli Tepe. Most of us have heard of Stonehenge, a prehistoric monument built around 6,500 years ago, making it one of the earliest known structures of the ancient world. But have you heard of Göbekli Tepe? This huge megalith is even older, and scientists remain a bit boggled about it to this day. Göbekli Tepe was first discovered in the 1990s in Turkey and is thought to be around 11,000 years old. If that's accurate, it's the oldest known site created by humans. But guess what? We have no idea what it's even for. What we do know is that Stone Age masons created tall rock pillars weighing up to 20 tons each, then formed them into 20 circles. Some of the pillars are almost 16 feet high and have carvings of scorpions, vultures, foxes, boars, and other animals on the sides. Some have human arms, which make experts believe the horizontal tops of the pillars represent human heads. Going by what scientists have discovered during excavations, they believe Göbekli Tepe lost its importance during the early 8th millennium BC and was buried under stone tools, stone vessels, and limestone fragments rather than being left to break down in the elements. Number 5. Shigar Idol. We're learning new things every day, and we're still learning about the Shigar Idol, the world's oldest wooden art that, as it turns out, is much older than we first thought. At first, it was thought to be about 500 years old, then 11,600 in later tests, but now it might actually be older than that. The Shigar Idol is a 9-foot-tall totem pole in 10 pieces. It's decorated with human faces and geometric carvings, and is the only surviving Stone Age wooden artifact. Gold miners found the unique piece of art in 1890 in a peat bog. It's now located at the Sverdlovsk Regional Museum of Local Lore in the Ural Mountains of Russia. Scientists actually had no idea how old the Shigar Idol was until 1997, when Russian scientists performed carbon dating and came up with 9,500 years. Other experts were skeptical. Using more advanced testing methods in 2018, the core of the statue was tested rather than the outside to reveal that it was 11,600 years old. But technology is constantly changing, and we've been able to find out more in just a few short years. A study published in Quaternary International stated that it might be 900 years older, which means it would be twice as old as the Egyptian pyramids or Stonehenge. Number 4. Stonehenge. You can't hear all about the most incredible discoveries without talking about Stonehenge. Even people who aren't interested in history will have heard of Stonehenge, which is easily one of the most famous prehistoric monuments in the world. What we do know is that Stonehenge was built in several stages. The first monument was built about 5,000 years ago, while the stone circle was constructed during the late Neolithic period in approximately 2500 BC. Burial mounds were built near Stonehenge in the early Bronze Age. However, the earliest structures were 4 or 5 pits with pine posts, kind of like totem poles, built between 8,500 and 7,000 BC during the Mesolithic period. Scientists don't know how these posts relate to the Stonehenge monuments themselves. Then there's the circular ditch built around 3000 BC with an inner and outer bank. Within the bank and ditch are 56 pits called Aubrey holes. Scientists also don't know what would have once stood in these pits. Some believe they might have held timber posts, but others think they might have held stones. There's so much we still don't know about Stonehenge. Number 3. Geoglyphs, Costa Rica. The frustrating thing about discovering some ancient artifacts is not being able to work out what they were for. As most, if not all, things had to be created by hand, it wouldn't make much sense to create something unless it had a purpose. Yet we still have no idea why the geoglyphs in Costa Rica were created, and they're now nothing more than lawn ornaments today. When workers from the United Fruit Company were clearing land in the Geoglyphs Valley in the 1930s, they discovered many round stone spheres buried in the ground. There were heaps of them, and they appeared to be human-made, with some over 2 meters, 6.56 feet, in diameter and weighing up to 16 tons. These are solid stone, and somehow they're perfectly round. They looked perfectly circular, so they were definitely human-made, but we still just don't know why. According to John Hoops, a University of Kansas archaeologist, they were most likely made by reducing already round boulders to spherical shapes. They might have done this by grinding, pecking, and fracturing the stones. John also said that they most likely came from a now-extinct civilization from between 700 CE and 1530 CE. Today, you can find the spheres in people's yards as lawn ornaments, and 6 of them are in the courtyard of Costa Rica's National Museum in San Jose. Number 2. Cachibib. Walls are built for all sorts of reasons, just ask Donald Trump. But we still don't really know why the Cachibib, an ancient wall in southern Jordan, was built or what it was used for. Around 150 kilometers, 93 miles, of the wall remains today, which means it's Jordan's longest linear archaeological site. British diplomat Sir Alec Kirkbride first identified it in 1948, and it's been studied by anthropologists, scientists, and archaeologists ever since. Some sections of the wall are accompanied by smaller parallel walls, which has led researchers to speculate that it may have been part of a larger network of enclosures. Additionally, pottery fragments found near the wall suggest it was used during multiple time periods, possibly being repurposed by different groups over centuries. The wall's irregular construction, with some parts being more carefully built than others, hints that it may have been built in stages rather than all at once. There are also signs of small watchtowers or enclosures along its length, which could indicate it had a role in monitoring movement or protecting livestock. The surrounding desert environment makes it difficult to determine how the wall interacted with the landscape, but it's clear that it required significant effort to construct. No one knows exactly when the wall was made, but it was likely constructed during the Iron Age or possibly even the Nabatean period. It was supposedly built and used by semi-nomadic Bedouin people who used to herd and farm in the Jordan Desert. Researchers believe it served no military purpose but instead was some kind of border made of rocks and other natural materials, about 1.5 meters, almost 5 feet, high. Even after years of research, there's no concrete evidence to suggest what it was used for. The closest we've come to an answer is believing it was used to divide up the land and separate areas, such as to form farming regions. Number 1. Earthquake lights. It almost seems like strange lights have been appearing in the sky since time began, but there's another unique type of light that scientists cannot yet provide a sound explanation for. They are known as earthquake lights, and they are a luminous aerial phenomenon that generally appears in the sky near places experiencing seismic activity, volcanic eruptions, and tectonic stress. No one can agree on what causes them or whether there are one or several phenomena. All we know is that they're weird. One of the first records of these absurd lights was during the 869 Sanraku earthquake. People reported seeing strange lights in the sky in the Neon Sandai Jitsuroku. They appeared when the earthquake was happening, but there were no reports of them occurring before or after the quake. Lights were also reported during the 1930 Edo earthquake, 1975 Kalapana earthquake, and 2008 Sichuan earthquake. However, the light patterns and time frames differed from the very first sighting. For example, during the 1930 quake, lights were seen about 70 miles from the epicenter, while during the 2008 quake, they were seen about 250 miles from it. There have been several other examples of colorful light spotted in more recent years, such as the 2011 eruption of the Sakurajima volcano in Japan and blue flashes of light in Wellington, New Zealand, in 2016. One possible explanation is thought to relate to high stress in rocks before and during an earthquake that causes ions to ionize pockets of air and emit light. Scientists are in a unique and privileged position. They have the opportunity to uncover sound scientific explanations for the phenomena they encounter. However, as you've likely realized by now, not everything can be explained. Some mysteries remain unsolved. Do you have a theory for any of these stories? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your ideas with us and don't forget to check out more fascinating content. See you next time.